So despite the growing number of protesters, this is looking more like a celebration. The student leader Joshua Wong was just here making a speech, and now people are just chanting and cheering. That's it. That's all from me. Back to you.
Thanks, Joel. That was Joel Da Silva reporting live from Admiralty. Now let's take a look at what's happening in Causeway Bay. As we can see, many protesters are still gathered at Yiwo Street outside the Sogo department store. I was there earlier, and protesters say there are no plans to leave anytime soon. Now let's take a look at Mong Kok, where some protesters are camped out there as well. People are mostly gathered at the junction of Nathan Road and Argyle Street. And police also have a light presence in the area as well. The occupation at Admiralty, Mong Kok and Causeway Bay grew this afternoon. Although the police sent negotiators to try to get protesters off the roads, they were unsuccessful. Stephanie Cho reports.
The number of protesters gathered at Admiralty began to climb this afternoon. For these children, Admiralty became a classroom for civic education.
My kids asking me what happened when they watching the TV. They saw the student was run away because of tear gas. Then they say, is it the student being naughty? Being naughty, so the policeman punished them. That's why I bring them here this morning. Yeah, I just let them to see the real situation here.
Protesters later filed into Wan Chai for more space. The police sent out negotiators to Admiralty, Causeway Bay and Mong Kok to get protesters off the roads so that normal traffic can resume. Not only were they unsuccessful, protesters blamed the police for pushing them out onto the streets. At the gathering in Mong Kok, this student told us that a little bit of peaceful disruption for the sake of the future of Hong Kong would be worth it.
I was actually reading reports about protesters in Hong Kong Island cleaning up tear gas canisters that the police had thrown on them. There's been no looting so far as I've heard. I think you can see like people are just here to show how they feel.
One of the Occupy Central organizers advised caution to participants of the movement.
Everyone has to be alert, given the experience yesterday. No one, I guess, in Hong Kong have ever imagined that a peaceful demonstration will be cracked down in this way.
But the police insisted that last night's use of tear gas was necessary.
The police cordon lines were heavily charged by some protesters, by some violent protesters. So police had to use the minimum force in order to separate the distance at that moment between the protesters and also the police. Police use force not only subject to the guidelines, but also we have to consider whether there are any other alternatives. That's why we will give them warning. They can retreat.
For now, members of the public are showing support for the demonstrators by delivering daily essentials such as food and water to them. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
41 people have been injured and 89 arrested in the unrest so far. And the way police handled the protests has come under scrutiny. Pan-Democratic legislators today released a joint statement accusing officers of using excessive force against demonstrators while demanding that the chief executive step down. More on that from Owen Fong.
27 pan-democratic legislators have signed a joint statement in response to the events yesterday.
The people of Hong Kong merely demanded a dialogue, but the chief executive responded by tear gas. We strongly condemn the Hong Kong SAR government, who had used disproportionate force on peaceful demonstrators.
Some legislators also praised the protesters.
The Hong Kong people, particularly the students, have demonstrated to the whole world how Hong Kong people would fight for democracy, human rights, with dignity, with restraint.
The demonstrators, the students, the Occupy Central movement had successfully turned a new page for the civic movement in Hong Kong.
The statement demands that Leung Chun-ying steps down as chief executive. It also calls on the National People's Congress Standing Committee to retract the political reform framework issued last month and restart the consultation process from scratch. Later on in the day, the pan-democratic legislators met with LegCo President Tang Yuk-sing to call for a special emergency meeting before the first meeting of a new LegCo session to discuss the police's handling of the protests. They also said they're drafting a motion of impeachment against the chief executive. Meanwhile, Robert Chow, spokesman for the Alliance for Peace and Democracy, has urged the protesters in Mong Kok and Causeway Bay to return those areas to ordinary citizens. He also warns that public opinion could turn against the protesters if they inconvenience the public for too long. Owen Fung, TVB News.
Chief Secretary